football. There is one more game to be played to wrap up Week 12 in the NFL. If you're joining us on the DraftKings Twitter page, the DK Nation Twitter page, we are also on Twitch and YouTube. This is the Slate. We come to you every weekday on the DraftKings channel. We take you up until 6 o'clock. We will so tonight because there are no Madden simulations after our show concludes. There is a game tonight. We will certainly discuss a little bit of yesterday, and we have a hockey expert, Jeff Ulrich, alongside. We also have Matt LaMarca. He loves the NBA, so we'll give you a best bet and a best play of the night on those respective slates before we go. My name is Brendan Glasheen. Gentlemen, hi. Hope you had a great, healthy weekend. LaMarca, thanks for filling in tonight. How are you?
Oh, come on now. I'm wonderful. My team just signed arguably the second best pitcher in baseball. We already have the best pitcher in baseball. How could I be mad on a day like this?
A lot of heat thrown around there by LaMarca. Look, was Scherzer even the best pitcher signed today? What about Robbie Ray, the Cy Young Award winner?
Robbie Ray's a bum.
Oh, wow. I'm going to tell Steve Buchanan he said that.
Tell him.
In all seriousness,
yeah.
Would you have rather had Ray or Scherzer? Contract and with the contracts and anything.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. And listen, I'm fully prepared to be unhappy because nothing ever works out for the Mets. All right. But digging into the metrics, like Robbie Ray was very lucky last year, right? He had a career high strand rate over 90%. His FIP significantly higher than his ERA.
Oh yeah, I know.
Don't you laugh
been
at
on
Glash.
this all day. All day he's been on this.
I've been working, doing news blurbs. These are the things you need to know.
Got it.
So, yeah. Plus, we kept him from the Dodgers, and that's always fun.
That's true.
Yeah.
I love Scherzer personally. I think he is a good investment. He's the kind of guy who I don't mind if you're a fan of baseball. That's the kind of guy you want to give money to. Like he's gonna go out there. He's gonna pitch as much as he can, and that's like, I mean, like you get some of these high priced free agents and they just turn into like divas as soon as they get paid. So, that's not where you're getting with Scherzer. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that's a fine guy to pay up for, to be honest.
I just realized that Robbie Ray went to the Mariners. So that is a perfect marriage for Steve Buchanan.
I tweeted at Bukes. I told Bukes he's got to bet them to win the World Series now.
Love
the
that.
Next logical step in the progression.
I mean, it feels like it's all working out for Steve lately. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bet the Mariners like today or something.
All right. Well, that's our baseball minute for the night.
Yeah, that's right.
That was good. That was insightful. Strand rate. Go back and rewind if you want to get that data from LaMarca when you bet your MLB futures in a couple of weeks. I'm sure those are available now if you want to take the Mariners to win the World Series. Perfect on DraftKings Sportsbook. We can certainly dive into the Sportsbook, also DFS with the showdown coming up tonight. I do want to discuss because the three of us, I feel, all have opinions on the Green Bay Packers. They are the talk of the town, and Lambeau Land is happy because the Packers are a half game out of first place in the NFC. Cardinals on the bye week this week. So let me get this straight. They win again. Aaron Rodgers, no complaints. Record's great. Finding, what's the new tight end's name that he's elevated once again? Everything's fine, Aaron. You're great. You're going to elevate the next no-name tight end that no one's heard of, the next no-name wide receiver for. So with that all being said, Jeff Ulrich, what's the expectation for the Green Bay Packers? They probably shouldn't be the third favorite to win the Super Bowl. They should be the favorite to win the title, shouldn't they?
Well, no, I mean, look, if we're looking at it from a market perspective, I think that the favorite, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is correct. I mean, I don't know how you can look at the Bucs, who have done pretty much everything correct this year as well, and obviously beat the Packers in Lambeau last year.
That's right.
And have them favored over the Packers. And that's where we stand right now. The Packers are third favorites. The Bucs are the favorites. I think where it gets interesting with Green Bay is when you look at the conference title. I mean, Tampa's actually like almost like half the odds of the Packers. And then you've got Arizona mixed in the middle. If you're not a believer in Arizona, I mean, I think you're getting pretty good value on the Packers, but I've said it from the start of the year, almost after they got blown out week one. And then they won like 4 in a row. It's a veteran team and they're not going to get bogged down by this regular season stuff. And that's been the case all year. They're very even keeled. You like that? And they've got 2 of the best defensive players in football coming back, probably healthy for the playoffs. So I don't know how you can't like the Packers right now. I've I mean, even at these odds, I think that they're a team who, I mean, what team who is other than the Bucks, who again I've already given the credit to, what team are you really confident taking the Packers out? Like really confident that you can say, okay, Lambeau, the Cardinals are coming to town, the Cowboys are going. Is there any team in the NFC you're really confident doing that? Other than the Bucks?
Of the five contenders that we all labeled for the last couple weeks now in the NFC, the Packers have beat them head to head. Cardinals and Rams, both of the NFC West. They haven't played the Cowboys. We'll see what it looks like against Tampa. LaMarca, he makes a pretty good point.
I agree. I think Green Bay right now, if the NFC Championship game was played in Lambeau Field, Green Bay would be favored over the rest of the league. It was clearly a mistake that they were getting points yesterday, right? I was on the Packers getting points. Aaron Rodgers now in his career is 5-1 against the spread as an underdog at Lambeau Field. It was a spot where the line didn't make a lot of sense for me. The one concern I have is we've seen so much wackiness on a week-to-week basis. It almost feels like any team can win any week. So I don't know if I have a ton of interest in backing anyone to win the Super Bowl at these odds, right? Like if I was going to do it, I might go with someone super weird, like the Colts at 50-1, something like that. Like they're the only team, like it's just so wide open. In my eyes, the Bills still are the best team in football. They're plus 750. So I guess that's a decent number, but there's a lot of just week to week variance in this thing.
There are, aren't they? I look at Green Bay across the board against the spread as a favorite, 6-2, best in the NFL at home against the spread, 5-0. You mentioned LaMarca historically, how Rodgers and the Packers have done as an underdog at Lambeau. ATS on the road, 5-1, only behind Arizona. I want to know, like, I don't want 2 months from now when they don't get to the Super Bowl and they fail again, that there should be no excuses made. That's all.
I don't think there will be excuses. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that, but they have enough talent to win. But
Agreed.
At the same time, I do think it's kind of ridiculous that they didn't take Odell.
Definitely. I still feel like Odell at this point in the year, like I get that he offers like something unique, but I mean, I don't know. I just feel like there's more chance that Odell comes in and just wrecks what the Packers have been doing. I mean, you can say, okay, maybe Packers fans will make excuses like our front office didn't do all they could again, but I don't think any of the players are making excuses on the Packers. I don't think the Packers players think they need Odell Beckham to win this year. Like I don't see that from this team at all. So yeah, I mean, I probably as someone with like Packers future Odell, I think there's probably still a little bit more upside than not, but not really. I was never really like that big on them doing it. I mean, it kind of reeks of desperation too. Like, and look at the Rams. I mean, I get they also had bad timing with the Robert Woods injury, but I don't know, man. A good team shouldn't need like an Odell Beckham right now to put them over the top, because Odell Beckham is just, as he's proven over the last 3 years, he's not consistent and he doesn't mesh well in new situations necessarily. So I don't know.
There's a balance. I just feel like if, let's say, Aaron Rodgers was in LA, he'd probably look at it and go, whoa, Von Miller, whoa, we're going to go out and make this move, make that move. I just think you'd appease. At this point, I'm just confused. Like,
well, here's the thing, though. Like, the Packers have players coming back. Like the Packers, that's the other thing. The Packers' issues, they're not on the offensive side. Like everybody, and you love to talk about the wide receiver thing. That's not their problem, man. Their problem isn't moving the ball. They have A.J. Dillon. They have Aaron Jones as a great receiver. Alan Lazard steps up. Look, they did add Randall Cobb as like a possession guy. I think that'll still pay dividends in the playoffs. But their problem has always been on the defensive side the last 3 years, or at least under LaFleur. They changed defensive coordinators. They're playing amazing on defense, and they get two of the best defensive players in football back in the last 8 weeks. I don't know how much more you can ask for, man. Like, I don't think Odell Beckham is as big a factor as Jari Alexander or Zadarius Smith coming back. Those guys, I don't think the market's pricing those guys in at all. So
I agree with
you. I just want,
that's fair.
With all that said, no excuses. You're really good without those players.
That's fine. I agree. There's no excuses for the Packers this year. There's none. There's not. I mean, there's there's probably, you could say there's no excuses for a team like the Bills this year either, who are underperforming. So, I mean, yeah, that's, good teams. They need to perform. I won't be making excuses for the Packers if they fail. It'll be completely, either a coach's fault or one of the players. So.
At least the quarterback in Buffalo doesn't run his mouth. So that's all. That's all I'm getting at. We can talk about the AFC too. Did you watch that game last night? I look at that game last night and I say to myself, Ravens-Browns just personifies this conference. Just when you think Baltimore, opportunity on the table. Now, they won the game. I get it. So they've maintained number one status in the AFC. But I look at a game like that last night and I'm like, oh my goodness. With the exception of the Patriots, I give the Colts a break. They were bound to cool off. They lost a shootout to a really good team. And Kansas City not playing this weekend. I still can't figure out the AFC. I don't know what to make of it. Or do we believe in Baltimore? Just a one-off bad game for Lamar Jackson last night?
I don't know if Lamar has a take. I mean, my take on the Ravens all year is that they're just not a good team, and they're getting saved by a really unique quarterback, much like the Chiefs, I think, have had their issues covered up by an elite quarterback. And that's what elite quarterbacks can do in this league. I think the Bengals are the best team in that division. Like, just overall, Joe Burrow's also getting healthier. But just because the Bengals are the best team, Lamarca touched on this, it's the NFL. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to finish with the best record. Like, the Ravens are winning games. The Ravens also have an edge at head coach. And you saw it last night, man, like with that weird punt play and going for it on fourth down. Those are the kind of plays that turn games around, just like being aggressive instead of just doing like dumb things, like taking a 30-yard punt, going for it in a close game on fourth down, regardless of where you are in the field. John Harbaugh does that kind of things, and it gives the Ravens an edge. So I don't really like their team. I don't think they're playing well. I don't even know if Lamar Jackson is playing that well. He's just such an elite runner at quarterback that he gives them a chance. And I think eventually they'll get exposed. They've had some big losses this year too, but I still think the Bengals are the best team in that division. I just don't know if they get over the hump this year and take out the Ravens.
Playing at the right time is crucial. You don't want to peak too early. That's a concern about New England, I would say, Lamarca. But look, there are 12 teams out of the 16 in the AFC with at least a 500 record. Do you have a developing opinion of the conference through now 12 weeks? Because tonight's game is, of course, NFC.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is that the Bills are the best team. I think they've been the best team all year. They're first in DVOA. They're elite on both sides of the ball, which I don't think is something that any other team in the AFC can really say. And I know everybody wants to put the Patriots in that class now. I'm not there yet. Beating the Titans was a good win, but the Titans were extremely banged up. I probably didn't put enough stock into the Titans injury situation heading into this week. Now they get a real test, right? This is the Bills game. So this will be a big test for both of these teams. And if the Patriots can win this one or at least make it a one possession type game down the stretch, then I think I will start to take the Patriots seriously. But my big thing is I feel bad for the Browns because I think unlike Jeff, I think that the Browns have the best roster in the AFC North. What they have is the worst quarterback. He has been, and I know he's hurt.
I take Baker right now over Big Ben, but
for him, right? He's on the field. He said he felt better than he's felt in 10 weeks, and he was an abomination last night, and it's been that way for a while. Yeah. So Cleveland, I don't know what the answer is. I think they need a new quarterback, but it seems like you're kind of stuck with him at this point.
I think I saw a stat on Kevin Stefanski, 1-6 against the spread when it comes to divisional opponents. So, yeah, they're not good,
Bob.
No, not getting it done against divisional competition, which is very important. Yeah, Baker Mayfield can barely walk. I mean, you noticed that last night, even when he threw the touchdown to Njoku, he's like hobbling to go congratulate him.
We know he's an actor, right? He might be acting a little bit.
He could be, but it's that debate, right? If he doesn't play, Baker's not a tough player. He's not playing injured. Then he goes out there and does play. And if it doesn't look good, then
so
you get
what's
criticized.
Worse? What's worse, to be called soft or to actively hurt your team by playing hurt?
I don't know, dude, because you might be onto something because Kyler Murray doesn't play and Colt McCoy fills in and looks like the old Colt McCoy from Texas and everything's fine.
Notice we haven't talked about Kyler Murray for 3 weeks, and it's like, oh, Cardinals just keep winning. If they were losing games, there's pressure for Kyler to come back.
That's part of the problem with the Browns. Like they can't seem to figure out just how to be productive, like consistently on the offensive side. Yet they have like Nick Chubb, and they have, I think Nick Chubb's been banged up too, so maybe give him a break there. But I don't know. It's hard for me to get behind them just because of that fact. Marco's right there, especially on the probably roster wise, like outside of quarterback. Now maybe wide receiver too, but they're certainly up there in terms of like really good rosters. I mean, they have a really, really good defense. That defense, especially against bad teams, can pretty much take over any game. Mm-hmm. So that's where you give them credit. But what they have struggled against, and again, you saw it last night. They can't get past these elite quarterbacks. They struggle with Lamar Jackson. They struggle with Patrick Mahomes. And they
didn't struggle with Lamar yesterday, to be fair.
That's true.
Lamar made some awful mistakes.
That's actually a good point. But the problem is, they can't win those. Right? So I guess that the thing is, the elite quarterbacks in the Cleveland defense, in a way, you could throw in there too, but they're good. But they could also lose to anyone any week, it's just, they're a frustrating team to watch. Makes me not like them.
Browns are the third favorite to win the AFC.
Big loss for them in terms of positioning last night.
Do they play the Ravens one more time? I'm not sure of that.
No, wait. Didn't they?
I feel like that was their second matchup, but I don't know for sure.
Well, looking at those odds, maybe hold out a sliver of whatever. Sorry, I shouldn't have. I hate when people do that to me, and I just did it to you guys. Ask questions on the spot without any heads up.
They have one more, and it's in 2 weeks.
Okay. Could be interesting. I still like the Bengals in that spot. Like I said, if you're betting futures there for the division.
Let's get to tonight. Any more thoughts from yesterday or from Thanksgiving? Any developing thoughts before we move on to tonight's game?
Let's talk Monday night, baby.
Okay. What do you think? What do you think, Lamarca? 3-7 Seahawks at the 4-6 Washington football team. Seattle has lost 5 of 6. I think both of you have said this to me in the past. I know Jeff said it to me very recently. Hey, when it comes down to it, bet good quarterbacks. I see Russell Wilson, but man, it has not looked good. It just hasn't looked good the last few weeks. But he's playing Taylor Heineke, who's actually played pretty well the last 4 weeks. Heineke and the football team kind of sneaky good the last few weeks. They get Logan Thomas back tonight. Russ is still dealing with that fractured finger. It's cold out. I don't know. What do you think, Lamarca? What are your thoughts on tonight?
I'm rolling with Seattle. It's a spot where Russell Wilson off a loss, 27-15-4 against the spread. Now, granted, he was in that situation last week and did not cover, but I need to see another stinker from Russ before I can say the guy is definitely playing hurt. He's not at 100%.
Hold on 1 second. You said 27-15-4.
Yes.
Is that 4 the ties or is 15 the ties?
4 is the ties.
4 is so okay. So it's only his 15th loss that's close to a 50-game sample. Wow.
Correct. Yes. It's a return on investment of 24%, if you're curious. And Washington is 30th in pass defense DVOA. So this is a spot where Russ should light them up if he's healthy. So I'm going to just kind of hope that he's healthy. I think that's the correct way to play this game. The Seahawks have gotten a slight edge here from a dollar perspective. The ticket count is split pretty much down the middle, but the Seahawks have an edge in terms of dollars, which is why this number has kind of started to trend back in their direction. It got down to the point where Seattle was -1. Now they're back to -1.5. I just think there's enough here. There's plenty here, actually, to point to the Seahawks being a solid play.
What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, pretty much on the exact same page. I mean, Washington, they won last week. I get it. They had the upset against Tampa Bay. That was nice. They're still not a good defense. I mean, they made Cam Newton, look fantastic in that game against Carolina. It's just that the Carolina defense was actually worse. I just can't see Russell Wilson not getting off against this Washington football team, man. Like, especially with DK Metcalf out there. I've said this like 4 times this week already. Big height advantage for DK Metcalf here. Tyler Lockett still playing well. I just think that Seattle, I don't even know if they're like the better team. Like, they may not even be the better football team, but I just think that this is a spot where Washington's just not going to be able to stop Russell Wilson. And it's probably going to just lead to one of those games where he throws like 25 times and throws like 4 touchdown passes. That's just the feeling you get from this. And look, Seattle's defense, it hasn't been terrible the last few games. I mean, they allowed 17 points to the Packers. They held the Cardinals to like what? It wasn't many points, right? Like
20 mid-20s, I think. Let me check.
I don't even think it was mid-20s. Like, anyways, it wasn't many. It wasn't much. Maybe it was mid-20s, but they haven't played that bad, and their rush defense is good. So that
23.
That leads to what? If the rush defense is good, if teams are throwing a lot, you want Taylor Heineke dropping back 35 times. I mean, I think that's kind of a recipe for disaster, right? So, no, I on Seattle here tepidly, but I always go with my man Russ, and Larka's right. Like, if this doesn't happen, you should just write Russell Wilson off because something ain't right. Like, either he's just playing out the string and he's so frustrated, and Pete Carroll is so inept that he can't write up a good game plan, or he's hurt. Because we have a big sample size with Russ. He's really, really good, and he normally just destroys teams in these kind of spots. So, also, last thing, Seahawks in prime time. I believe it's 33-10 under Pete Carroll since 2010. That's a pretty insane record. So,
straight up.
Yeah, it's straight up. Mm-hmm. It's something like that. Or was it ATS? I don't know. They've got a really good record in prime time. Just trust me.
I trust you.
Okay, these two teams did meet in Week 15 last year, but at that point of the season a year ago, Washington football team was an excellent defense, and they're not the same defense as they were in their 20-15 loss to Seattle. Russ did throw a pick, only 121 yards passing. Logan Thomas was a factor in that game. Again, he's back tonight. Thomas had 13 catches last year on 16 targets. Who was the quarterback?
33-10-1 straight up in primetime games.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, they've tied.
All aboard the money train, boys.
Who was their quarterback last year before Heineke played? Haskins?
Alex Smith.
Alex Smith. Right. Jeez. I forgot. Okay. Yeah. Washington not good against the spread also at home. 3-7, 1-4 at home. Any thoughts on the total? I feel like this is a night where you have to remind yourself, don't take an under in a primetime spot. I still feel Heineke in the Washington football team offense. They're clicking a little bit. Gibson's playing a little better. I know there's McLaurin's played well. Thomas back. I still feel like we could find ourselves in an over situation tonight.
Yeah, don't tell people who had the under last night that you can never bet the under in a primetime game. But I think that this is an over spot.
Okay.
Like I said, I expect Russ to put points on the board. I expect Heineke to put some points on the board too. Seattle's 25th in pass defense DVOA this year. And I don't think Heineke's bad. I don't think he's like a great quarterback by any stretch, but I think he's good enough to be a starter in the NFL, which is not bad for a guy who was planning to be a math teacher at this time last year.
Forgot about the math teacher narrative. Yeah, and it's not good on the road, LaMarca. Seattle's defense. They've allowed 273 passing yards to opposing quarterbacks, and completion percentage on the road is at 67 for quarterbacks against this Seattle defense. By the way, are you both interested in the spread? Or are you taking Seattle money line just to steer clear?
When the spread is this low, I think you're doing yourself a disservice by taking the money line.
True.
Right? You're laying 125 as opposed to minus 110, and you're essentially betting on the same thing.
It's true. It's true. Thoughts on the total, Mr. Over?
Yeah, I would lean slightly over here. I think now it's up to 47. I mean, I think under 47 would be like the perfect, 46.5 would be ideal, but it does feel like a spot where, again, if we like Russ to score, well, Seattle allows a lot of underneath passes, and it's probably going to lead to at least one garbage time touchdown. So, even if you get the Seahawks up, say 27-10, there's a very good chance you're going to see Washington move the ball, right? So, I think 47. It's pretty accurate, but I don't think you can project these teams like 50 points or something. But Washington has played better on offense, and I think the main thing is you just got two teams who the weaknesses here are on defense of both sides. So, I would lean over here.
Okay. All right. Very good. Any props we'd like to discuss for tonight?
I got quite a few. I don't mind. We've talked about Russell Wilson a lot. His passing touchdown rate here, or his touchdown total is 1.5 passing touchdowns. It's minus 135. I'm fine going over on that. Seahawks are all banged up at running back. When they get inside the red zone, there's certainly, don't mind having those like flare outs, rolling Russ outside of the pocket. The football team allowed the second most passing touchdowns against. I think you go over on that touchdown prop. I don't really want to touch his yardage prop because, again, he might throw the ball 25 times. He might go complete 23 passes, but the volume with Russ can be hit or miss. And then from a wide receiver RB prop, I like to go under here on Antonio Gibson. Again, it's a good rush defense. Gibson just is playing 40-50% of the snaps. And I like going over on the receiving yards for J.D. McKissic. Although it is up. It was 27 earlier in the day. Now it's 31.5. So I don't like it as much there, but I would hit the under there on Gibson.
What was the one you said before that?
Antonio Gibson under 65.5.
Okay.
My prop that I've really liked all day is Alex Collins over rushing yards, but that number has now come up quite a bit. It's up to 54.5. I still think you can play that number. Collins is going to be the guy for Seattle, right? They have no Chris Carson. Right. They have no Rashad Penny. They have no Travis Homer. It's just Collins and DJ Dallas. And I think as long as Collins is healthy and he was removed from the injury report, he's going to be their feature back. So I think 54.5 is still low. I liked it better when it was, around 50 or even below that. But I think this number has some value.
Why don't we go over to the showdown? We have a couple of questions also coming in from our friends on Twitch that we can certainly get to. CJ71 is already asking, who is your sleeper pick for tonight's game? So I suppose that is a showdown question. No Millie Maker tonight. Total prizes, though, $1.5 million, $500,000 to first place. Thoughts on the showdown, fellas? A sleeper pick that would no longer become a sleeper once you reveal it.
Freddie Swain.
Oh, damn you, Jeff.
I'm fast.
Swain?
we could like the same guy, Lamarca. It's okay. You embarrassed to like the same guy as me? Is that what this is about?
I want it to look smart when he scores a touchdown tonight.
Ooh.
I do like it. I want. Swain.
Not to be confused with Jeff Swain.
That's right.
If you look at Russell Wilson, historically, no player has a better correlation with Wilson than Freddie Swain. In games where Russell Wilson tends to do well, Freddie Swain tends to do well. Eskridge still not expected to play. He's doubtful, so Swain can handle that wide receiver 3 role. And I just love that he is so positively correlated with his quarterback. If you want to build a Seahawks stack, to me, it's Russell Wilson, it's Tyler Lockett, and it's Freddie Swain.
Who's your captain?
Probably Russ in that situation.
So if you look at it, the Lamarca plan, Wilson, Lockett, no DK Metcalf. If you had to pick, you'd go Lockett over Metcalf.
So here's why I lean Lockett. First off, just from a numbers perspective, he has the better matchup of the two. DK is the guy who is going to draw the matchup versus Fuller, who is the best cornerback for the football team. And I'm not saying that DK can't win in that matchup, but Lockett just has a slightly better one. And again, I really like to use correlations in my teams on Showdown. So Lockett has a 0.46 correlation with Wilson. Metcalf, surprisingly, 0.08. So Metcalf can have a good game, but it tends to come as like a standalone type performance. So when you're building a stack, I want guys who tend to complement each other, and that's why I'm leaning Lockett.
Okay. Hey Jeff, I just looked at something. You do know, and I'm not saying I'm kind of with you guys. I picked Washington tonight on the money line just to get it out there.
Boo.
You know that that record for Pete Carroll, they're 0-3 this year.
They are. And that's the danger with looking at long-term records. I mean, obviously this Seattle team has no correlation with a 2011 Seattle team, right?
Yeah.
So, it's almost, I don't want to say it's ridiculous to look at those things, because I think there is certain coaches who prepare their teams better necessarily for certain types of games. And I believe in that with Bill Belichick too. And I think you could probably apply it to Pete Carroll, but it's not something I would go like hanging my hat on and being like, oh, this is the best stat in the world. It's more of an interesting note. And I mean, realistically, the reason I like Seattle is we've already talked about it. I know.
I'm sorry. I just couldn't help it. It's
a fair point. I mean, I don't want people who may be watching this to think like that's the reason I necessarily love Seattle. It's just one of those stats you find when you're researching that it's interesting. It's also a good talking point.
It is.
And I think there's probably a little bit of something in it just from a head coaching perspective.
Yeah, it was 3 losses in a row. Rams Thursday night at home at Pittsburgh. Now, look, remember, like Geno Smith was the quarterback starting for 2 of these 3 of these games. So that's fair, right? And Russ got hurt in the Rams game. So you didn't have a healthy Russell Wilson for all 3 of these games. So I will say that. But the Rams Thursday night at Pittsburgh and New Orleans. I bring that up because just you guys make great points about Russ and his health. Maybe that does overcome the coaching job or lack thereof of Pete Carroll. And I just feel like it's time. Like it's time to go. It just feels that way from a roster construction standpoint and from a scheme standpoint. It feels like it's run its course, and it now relates back to why there was some chatter about Russell Wilson wanting out in the offseason and wanting changes. They got a new offensive coordinator. They brought in Gerald Everett, who Lamarca thought would be his saving grace for his fantasy team, but that didn't go well.
Hey, 12 targets the past 2 weeks.
That's true. He's coming on. It's the right time of year to get hot. Anyway, back to the task at hand. Do you have showdown thoughts tonight, Jeff?
No, I mean, I think Matt and I are on the same page. I mean, I was going to say, actually, before Lamarca brought up those good correlation points, if you do play DK Metcalf, he's the kind of guy I would rather play in the captain spot, simply because, if he does score, I mean, there's a better chance it's going to be on like a 70 or 80-yard touchdown. He ends up with like 152 touchdowns. Lockett can do that too, but there's just more likelihood. It's like when DK Metcalf goes off, it feels like he gets all the targets and then Lockett kind of does nothing. Whereas it seems a little bit more balanced when Lockett goes off. That's just me looking. But again, there is probably something to do that if those correlation stats are correct. So I think if you play Metcalf, you play him in the captain spot. He's also cheaper, which is another factor for Metcalf and one reason why I like him as a captain. I do like J.D. McKissick. I think you could even think about him or Logan Thomas as a captain. Seahawks are brutal, allowing those passes underneath. One of those guys could get like 8 catches tonight. It wouldn't shock me. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. As far as showdown, I don't mind DJ Dallas as a little play either. Again, he's going to be on the field because it's just him and Alex Collins, and Dallas could certainly catch like 5 passes here and if he gets in the end zone at that price, it'd be real good. Yeah,
you get a pretty good savings going to Metcalf as opposed to a Tyler
It is pretty
Lockett.
Big savings. The other thing to point out here is Taylor Heinicke is really cheap. He's super cheap, right? If we'd like the Washington football team to score some garbage points, I mean, I would much rather roster Taylor Heinicke than pretty much anyone else on Washington for a captain's pick. Like, I mean, I like McLaurin, but he's cheaper. He's way cheaper than his quarterback, or way more expensive than his quarterback. I'm not big on Gibson. I don't know if McKissick, even though I threw him out there, I don't know if he's got enough upside as like a pure play because he's not that explosive. So I think if you're looking for a Washington play to come back on, and I think Heinicke is the guy to use.
Yeah, like Heinicke, if you look at some of his game logs here, look, they're playing a first-place schedule because they won the division last year. Like at Green Bay, at Denver is always a tough game. He did well against Tampa. You mentioned it, Jeff. Carolina was awful on defense, so we'll take that one out of it. But when it's been a pretty lackluster Buffalo, he did well. Atlanta, he's had some smashed spots against bad defenses. Giants, Falcons, Carolina. So he's capable. I mean, look, I would probably trust Russell Wilson more, but it certainly makes things interesting from that perspective in the showdown. So, all right, good deal. That's our showdown discussion. We have some more questions. Oh, Curtis Samuel is back. Must be is in the YouTube chat.
Hey.
Must be high.
In the building.
Curtis Samuel is back. Does that factor into our discussion at all?
Not really for me. I don't think he's a standalone play for me at 5K. What he does is he makes DeAndre Carter a whole lot less appealing. Carter has kind of stepped into that number 2 Washington receiver role. And so now that Samuel's back and Logan Thomas is back, like it just pushes him down the pecking order a bit further. So I'm kind of avoiding this tier of Washington pass catcher with the exception of Logan Thomas.
Okay. Let's go. I want to find out what the odds are for Mr. Swain to score a touchdown because you did mention that, LaMarca. Freddie Swain, anytime touchdown, plus 550 on the DK Sportsbook.
Ready?
Maybe worth a sprinkle tonight. Freddie Swain. That's what you get on this show.
If you're trying to win yourself one of those same game parlays that's going to pay you, $100,000 on like a $25 wager. I don't hate Swain at plus 550. Throw him in there, baby.
Love it. Let's see. Yeah, DJ Dallas was a question. We addressed that. First time playing Fortnite. What's his number for anytime touchdown? Plus 250. That's something maybe worth discussing as well to give Collins a breather. Miami Misfits. Logan Thomas is back, is active tonight. So Samuel technically is still a questionable call for tonight, but Ron Rivera says he should be able to play for the Washington football team. Logan Thomas being back will be a factor for sure. We've got about 5-10 more minutes. There are some questions, LaMarca. There's a question for you on the NBA tonight. Carter Robinson.
Okay.
Now Varder wants some value plays in the NBA this evening. Do you have some?
Yeah, I might be able to help him out with a little something.
Here's the slate for you.
We
found out during our show, by the way, that Jimmy Butler's been ruled out tonight. So Miami's without a bunch of dudes. We'll find out about Jokic. Still no word.
Very interesting. Okay, so then Miami becomes a pretty obvious source of target if he is out.
Jimmy Butler out, tailbone contusion. You
can go with a guy like Gabe Vincent, who's down at 3,800. He's had a couple of nice games recently. He'll probably enter the starting lineup, I would say, so he makes some sense. A guy who has been kind of popping as an obvious value all day is PJ Washington. He is starting at center for the Hornets in place of Mason Plumlee. So, he, again, 2 nice back-to-back games coming off 35 minutes or so in his last game, which was an overtime game, but that still projects him for around 30 points or 30 minutes or so today. And then Houston has plenty of value as well that you can look at, with Jalen Green out of the lineup. You can go with a guy like Eric Gordon potentially at 5,200. You can go with Jayshawn Tate at 4,800. Garrison Matthews at 4K. He honestly might be the best pure value of the group, given that he started. He's coming off a really good game in his last outing, 2 straight good games, actually. So there it is. Is that enough value for y'all? You want some more? Are you not entertained?
It's plenty. Yeah, no Jimmy Butler tonight or Hero for the Miami Heat. So if you're making lineups tonight, lock is at 7, I would presume.
Who they playing? They starting Udonis Haslem or something?
They're playing Denver. Oh, well, they're playing Jokic in Denver. Interesting. Udonis Haslem. The minimum.
Is he still on the team? I was just joking.
Don't play Udonis Haslem.
Yeah, man. He's like a player coach.
Don't play Udonis Haslem.
No, don't.
That was
a joke.
He is a player coach. Do not play him.
I just didn't even think he was still on the roster. Okay. All right. I thought he was just like a coach now. Okay.
Oh, he's still there. He is still there. Good for him. Seriously. He's putting up with all those children in Miami. That's probably why he's there. All right, no going out tonight. Stay home.
That's exactly why he's there.
Honestly, a smart idea by them. I mean, Every team should have a guy.
Get an
like
adult on the team. Jeff Ulrich, what about the NHL tonight? Any thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. A couple spots I like. If you bring up the old NHL lines there, we got the Kraken that you can release tonight against the Sabres. I think they're getting a little bit underrated there for sure. Team that's had some big wins over the last few games. They're playing a little bit better. You look at the advanced stats, 5-on-5, scoring chances allowed. They're way superior to the Buffalo Sabres in those. They're getting good goaltending finally. Dredger looks like he's going to get the start here. Played really well his last time out. I think that's a fair line there. Was it minus 125? I can't even. 135. Yeah, it was minus 130, I think, this morning. So it's moved a bit, but I think the Kraken they're playing a lot better. The one I really like is actually the Canadians at home. Jake Allen playing better as well. They've averaged 4 goals in their last 4 games as well. The Canucks, I mean, both these teams are dumpster fires, but like the Canucks are the bigger dumpster fire. So I think the Canadians at home are that's a fine price for them too. Like I think this is saying, oh, these teams are almost equal because of the records here with the Canadians being at home. I think the Canadians are definitely the better team. So they just have really started poorly. Those are probably my 2 favorite money line bets. I actually don't hate the Penguins too. If you want to add one more in there at plus 125. And then for totals, I like the over in that Kraken Sabres game too. And
plus money.
Yep. Plus 110. I think that's fine. Sabres, not good goaltending. And I don't mind the over in the Coyotes Jets game either.
Very good.
So interesting 4-game slate. Like I got, I actually like a lot of spots in this just for having 4 games there.
All right. What do you say? I think we covered everything. I mean, this game tonight, it kind of reeks. I guess Washington with a win still is hanging around for that 7 spot. I know I sound like a broken record, but every week it feels like the team that has the last spot in the NFC blows it and just can't control their own destiny. Like the Saints were that team for a while as the 6, so Atlanta was the 7, and Atlanta pooped itself on Thursday night. Then Carolina got an opportunity. They blew it. The Vikings, they got it. Then they blew it. So now it's San Francisco's turn to blow it. San Francisco is going to be the sneaky team here down the stretch, I think, to ruin playoff hopes for other teams.
Well, they need Debo. I hope Debo is not seriously hurt because he's kind of become like a Christian McCaffrey hybrid weapon. You know, like there's really nobody in the league that does what he does. I also still really like the Vikings. I know that they let me down, but the Vikings, like all the metrics suggest that they're kind of better than what their record indicates.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
You
got a thought there, Jeff?
They just have Kirk Cousins as quarterback. I think the Vikings are probably the team I would pick to get that 7th seed right now. As far as San Francisco goes, they have a pretty good schedule, like for their last little bit too. They have a couple very easy games. Texans, I think they got another like gimme in there somewhere too. And then like the rest of their division isn't playing that good either. So 49ers in a really good spot for a playoff, but yeah, losing Debo for a significant amount of time would really hurt them. They do have, but I mean, again, like to make the counter argument, I mean, they have a bunch of running backs. Some of them can catch the ball. Brandon Ayuk can certainly be used more. They got a couple other receivers there. I'm just slipping my mind that probably could step up too. So even if they lose Debo, I think it's manageable for them. Their defense played better. Just looking ahead to next week.
Sure.
Can I make a bold call? I think
Please.
I think the Bears are going to cover at home versus the Cardinals at +7. So
You're going to bet against the Cardinals again? Haven't we all learned our lesson?
well, I'm not betting. Well, actually, no, you're right. I haven't learned my lesson, I guess.
You haven't. We just think at some point the Cardinals will fail, and they just
It's a lot of points.
Kyler's going to play this week, right?
Yep.
According to the coach there, Cliff Kingsbury, who, you know, I don't know if you've heard this, Oklahoma very interested in bringing him in to replace Lincoln Riley.
Yeah.
I'd also like to date Chrissy Teigen when she gets the time. But I'll give a pick out too. A little quicker pick.
Yeah.
Saints +4.5 on Thursday night. We ride.
Someone brought this
Hill.
up. I guess so. Mike McCarthy has COVID, I guess now.
Yeah, I don't care about that. That might help Dallas.
Yeah,
we're being 100% honest.
That's bad.
That's a good point because their offensive coordinator, what's his name again? Kellen
Moore.
Kellen Moore, he's pretty good. Maybe if he wants to get a head coaching job, this is a good audition for him against Sean Payton on a short week. Well, guess not a short week. They played Thursday, so it's a full week. But you get my point. What else we have on here for spreads? The spreads are a lot shorter this week, not as long. Or pardon me, longer spreads this week, not as short as last week. Seeing Colts, Texans, Bucks are a double-digit favorite. Touchdown games here, as Jeff mentioned, Cardinals and Bears, Vikings against the Lions.
I'll tell you right now, another game that jumps out to me right away, Dolphins -3 against the Giants. I don't know why people keep disrespecting the Dolphins. This team is not the same team that they were earlier in the year. Their defense absolutely pummeled Cam Newton and then BJ Walker yesterday. Plus Brian Flores, and take whatever you want with this, just an absolute monster against the spread in the second half of the season. So I think the Dolphins beat the Giants. They beat the Jets next week, and they get back to 7-7, 500 for the year. And who knows what can happen from that point.
That's I know I mentioned the Bears as a hot take, but the Dolphins are definitely my favorite bet on the board right now. Like, I would bet that before it gets up to -4. People will. The Giants are only getting respect here because they beat Philly, which is like, who cares? They beat Philly.
Agreed. Divisional game. Those
Giants aren't good. Like the Dolphins defense, Matt alluded to, not healthy at the start of the year. They're healthy now. They're playing way better. I love that spot too. Probably my favorite on the board.
If you get half of what Tua did, Tua was 27 of 31.
That's the thing.
Beautiful.
When their defense is playing good, they just need him not to screw up, right?
Right. So, I know. That's what I'm saying. You get half of what Tua even did, they would have been fine yesterday. That's my point. Like, he played amazing.
He did. It's true.
Sorry, you had one more game. Go ahead.
What was I going to say? Oh, I mean, I was just going to say the most interesting game on the board, I think, is the Chargers and Bengals. That's a game the Bengals should win. Chargers defense can't stop anything, but we'll see. It's going to be a really interesting. Maybe Justin Herbert can pull that out.
Yeah,
so big game for the Bengals, because if they can pull that out, they're in a good spot for the division. If you're high on the Bengals, think about them in the division right now.
What would you take? Oh, that's actually an interesting discussion too, because you've got former Rams assistant on the offensive side, Zach Taylor, against a former Rams assistant on the defensive side in Staley for the Chargers, head to head.
Well, is Sean McVay just going to not be able to pick a side? He's like the dad at hockey practice or whatever.
Can I end the show with a hot take that shouldn't be a hot take?
Let's go.
Yeah,
Sean McVay is a fake sharp. What the hell was that running play on 3rd and 1 yesterday? You're down 2 scores. You have 0 timeouts. I understand. You're like, oh, we'll run the ball. We'll pick up the first down. We'll catch the defense off guard. Even if you gained like 15 yards on that play, the clock doesn't stop. You're still running to the line of scrimmage. It was a awful play call. Fake sharp, Sean McVay.
That team, we didn't even discuss them. We did discuss OBJ. Rams, kind of frauds. Like, wow. Ever since they've tweeted all in, they're 0-3. Nice team you got there. And Matt Stafford is now 9-70 against 500 teams?
Hurt. He's clearly hurt.
Wah. Like, it's that time of year, LaMarca. Come on. Everyone's hurt. Okay.
All right.
That's
do
enough.
that.
It's enough.
It's Sean McVay is.
We started the show with the Packers being hurt, and they're overcoming it. They get credit.
I guess we need to go. I won't say anything. LaMarca's right about Sean McVay. That's all I was going to say.
All right, so I guess we're all taking the Jags. We're taking Everson's Jags to 12.5 points.
Let's go.
All right, you all have a great night. Best of luck with your bets and your lineups tonight for Washington and Seattle, your NBA and NHL stuff. If you want to scroll back, the video lives on Twitter, YouTube, as well as Twitch. So go back and kick it and reverse it, and go back and reverse. There we go. To listen up on what these guys have to offer for tonight's slates in the NHL and the NBA. Of course, the football game as well. For Jeff Ulrich, Matt LaMarca, Eamon, and Andrew behind the scenes, Brendan Glasheen. I'll see you all tomorrow with Gary and Thorne and Shrog Hero. We'll do a bunch of NBA tomorrow night ahead of lock. See you then. Thanks for watching.